Hello, welcome to this video. Thank you so much for tuning in, sharing in this now moment with myself and with one another. If you haven't seen these videos before, welcome back if you have. My intention is unity and oneness. Welcome to my beautiful artwork. Excuse the reflection. It's actually better with the ring light on because it casts more light on this glassy board. So I'm going to talk about this in a minute, and my future boards, I'm going to get a regular old whiteboard. It'll be a lot brighter, but thank you for your patience today, and thank you for your patience with my sound. This is the only microphone that works in my computer right now. So hopefully the sound quality is okay. Having gotten through all that, welcome. The intention that I have behind this video is to share a vision that I was shown several times, and also more specifically yesterday when I was doing a walking meditation. So I do energy work, energy healing. I'm a Reiki master. I have I'm a Pilates instructor. I'm a yoga instructor. I teach meditation and breath work. I do energy healing that I call energy integration, which has evolved since becoming a Reiki master, and so on and so forth. And through all of this, I also do intuitive readings, meaning I just tune in intuitively to my higher guidance team, to the collective frequencies and energies. And I like to share what comes through in any and all of these sessions, whatever it is that I'm doing and working with, and sharing with you guys on this channel. So this is going to be a vision that I was shown to help explain some of the channeled information that came through from my higher guides, which are all connected to source, frequency, or God, or the spirit that moves through all things. Whatever is your cup of tea, I try not to label it. Whenever I get into this information, I always drop into my heart and I expand my awareness in my field from a very neutral place, as neutral as I can be in this human skin suit, we'll say. Having said all that, this particular message is about how we're creating our reality, and what I'm being shown right now to kind of clarify a lot of the messages that have been coming through for the last, 7 years really, but especially in the last few months, is to remind us that there's a lot going on around us. Yet we are the ones that are collectively and individually creating our reality. We're creating our future now. And a lot of the concerns that I've been, well, it's different individually, whoever I'm working with. As a collective, many people are concerned about the state of the world. Many people are concerned that other people don't get what they get, or why isn't this person doing what I want them to, essentially. Even if what we want is for the greater good, is because we are in the highest state of love and appreciation and gratitude. And we just want others to experience this higher dimensional frequency of multidimensionality. And there's nothing wrong with wanting that for others. But what I'm seeing and being shown over and over again is our desire to control the outcome, or the lives, or the decisions and choices that others are making, is actually taking us off our track, taking us off path. And so I want to talk a little bit about how I was shown, and what is happening, and what we can do to kind of work through this crazy energy that we're all collectively experiencing right now. Some of the words that my guides used in this particular channeling talk about the placebo effect. So I'm going to talk about the placebo effect, and also displacement or dispersion, displacing of old patterns. So let's talk about this briefly, and then I'll kind of roll back into the channeling. I was shown that this little human right here, his little purple guy, is constantly sending out light. And this is a version, oops, let's try not to knock out my microphone. I don't have much room to move here. The reason that they showed this variation of person is this person, this stuff right here. Wonder if I can make this less at an A. I really don't know if that's any better, but this person right here is all that stuff that's around them. I always talk about Pigpen from Charlie Brown. And so if you've got all this stuff around you, we're working on clearing that, right? So what happens is as we're clearing out that energy or that field, all this stuff starts to lift and we essentially move it, dissolve it, and that allows this light to kind of come through brighter and brighter and brighter. And what happens is it illuminates all of the stuff oftentimes that we haven't noticed, that we've been avoiding, that we've maybe noticed, but we didn't necessarily want to integrate or look at. We could call it shadow, we could call it all this stuff, right? And so as we ascend, if we want to call it that, or as we evolve, we move those energies, we integrate those energies, and we move forward into this new dimension, right, of energy that we're co-creating together. So the way in which my guides were describing this is thought patterns. So basically what they were showing is thought patterns are energy. So let's say that all of us are sending out these thought patterns. This version of human is sending out really clean, bright thought patterns. I love everyone, everything is awesome. What's that Legos guy? Sending out a very positive vibe, let's say. Doesn't mean they're going to be like that all the time, but the majority of what they're sending out is creating this high frequency of thoughts. Those are going out into the space, the biofield, the plasma, the energy. So think of it as layers of energy and matter. Thoughts, you can't necessarily see as energy or matter, but thoughts become form. Thoughts become matter. The more we think about something, the more energy we put towards that, the more it displays itself back or reflects back to us in our reality. And I'm sure many of you guys have heard this all of the time, like think about the law of attraction and so on and so forth. But what I was shown that's the guides are trying to give a different perspective is we've been swimming in this soup of everybody's thoughts. So when I go out and I'm in a grocery store, especially when I first started awakening some of my skills, we'll say, you can sometimes be a little raw or a little edgy because you're opening up these senses in your body that maybe have been shut down, inaccessible. There's been a buffer that's been created. And all of a sudden we start to open up those tubules of light and energy, and we start to feel more. I'm getting goosebumps. This tells me a lot of people, this is what's happening. We start to pick up on more. We start to feel itchy when we're around someone who's super agitated, or we start to get heart tickles and tingles when we're around someone who's super high vibe because they're sending out that energy. We start to pick up on other people's stuff. Some of us have been doing this a lot our whole lives and didn't realize it. Some of us do realize it, and that's why we become hermits, right? I could go on and on. So what happens is my guides are showing me that this is around us all the time. In addition to all of the stuff that's being projected at us. So we're picking up on, but let's stick with the thoughts. So all of these thoughts are floating around us energetically like plasma. So if you picture globules, right? And the more those globules become coherent, they create a coherence, or better spoken, they adhere, right? They get cohesive. That's the word I was looking for. Cohesive enough to form matter. But remember, we have layers. So these thoughts are energy that over time might form a pattern. They might feel heavy, they might feel light, etc., etc. So think of us going through, and I use this as an example with a friend of mine. I said, visualize yourself under the ocean in a submarine. Let me see if I can get this right. You're in a submarine, and as you go through the water, you're dispersing water off to the sides. You're dispersing it off and up and down so that you can move through the water. So visualize your body as that submarine. And now as you walk through your day, that water is energy, it's ether, but it's also thought patterns, sounds, frequency. So we're constantly in that soup all day long, all of the time, every day. And as we move, we're dispersing it off, or we're attracting it to us in some cases. And it isn't either or. Those are just examples of what might happen with the energy. The energy isn't necessarily just dissolve and go away, especially if these thoughts have been accumulating. I'm hearing accumulating like clouds, a cumulus. So it's like accumulating thoughts create these clouds of frequency and energy that essentially get stuck in the field around us. We are then interacting with them, whether we realize it or not. And so the guides were showing me that before, for whatever reason, and even now for some people, this is what it looked like. See that little person? It's the same person. This person isn't any lighter in color than this one, but there's more stuff in this person's field. It's scrambled. The irony is it's not cohesive, yet these different colors represent different particles of thoughts. So this over here is political, this over here is social, this over here is emotional, that is attaching in with all of that climate that's associated with these thought patterns. And what's happening is that chaos, right, that is surrounding us and distracting us, it's like scratchy white noise. It's like when you go into the grocery store, again, I'll go back to that original example, and you feel all of that different energy from each and every person, and your nerve endings are raw until you are able to cohesively be in your own space, create your own bubble, and hold that frequency that essentially allows you to operate in knowingness of what you're feeling, yet not getting pulled into all of those different feelings and emotions and getting overwhelmed by it. What most of us have done have created a buffer, and we don't even know that those things are going on. And that buffer has been for protection. It's been to out of ignorance, whatever it might be. It's been useful for a lot of us, but some of us are dissolving that. We're dissolving our own stuff. So then we become aware of other people's stuff, and it can be a little overwhelming at times. Once we get into a place of cohesiveness, so these are slightly cohesive because they take it on shapes, they take it on patterns, distorted patterns, but they're still patterns. We step away and through that field, and we begin to disperse that energy, those distortions, the chaos, and we begin to emit more light because we're not blanketed by all this other stuff. What I'm really being called to share is it doesn't mean it's not there. It just means we're interacting with it differently. So that's a whole other topic, because I get asked a lot, what about this person? What about that person? What about our leader here? What about my neighbor? What about my mom? It's not to say that the bigger topic is what about us? We're here at this time to operate from our space. And as we do this, all of these patterns get disrupted. They do not hold cohesiveness in our field. Therefore, the cohesiveness that we do hold, the coherence, the resonance of heart frequency, begins to disperse that other energy, and in some cases, from my perspective, dissolve it. It's almost like we see it, and because we see it, it changes. So that's not necessarily dissolve, but there's a name for it. I just can't think of the name right now. Displacement, maybe? I'll come back to that. So we see it, And all of a sudden, because we're looking at it, because we're observing it, it changes the frequency to reflect back to us our own frequency. So this is complicated. I'm trying to keep it simple because I can hear all the questions that are coming in. Okay, well, what about this? And what about that? Maybe I'll address some of those questions down the road. But let's go back to this cohesive person. So now this old version of us that was kind of lost in the shuffle, all this music going on, all this noise, all this distraction, is now stepping forward and clearing that out of it. I'm hearing the word setting the scene and creating from a vision. So the message my guides kept saying was, use your imagination, be playful. Remember when you were a child and you would play with your imaginary friends, which were probably real oftentimes. They were our angels, right? Let me use a better example. When we created a vision from our mind of, do you ever talk with children and they're like, yeah, this is my friend and this is what we're doing and we're in a castle and I'm a princess or I'm a prince or I'm a farmer and I'm working with the animals, right? I used to have like a little farm with all the horses and the cows. You were really in that world. That world was real to you as a child. The guides are like, yes, get back to that or step forward into that. That's what a lot of, so being childlike isn't just about being in the heart. All of this is about being in the heart. All of these videos, you have to start there. But some of us struggle getting there because we're here, right? We're in this yuckiness. That could be our thoughts, our pig pen, but it could be the collective stuff that we're swimming in that we can't quite imagine what we want because we're being told constantly what we should be wanting, what we should be paying attention to, what we should be thinking, thought patterns. What the guides were telling me also is that this has already been created. This is all old, stagnant, right? So why are we continually swimming in stagnation and muck? It's time for us to see it for what it is and walk through it, right? And create, even while we're in that, new. And as we create new things, we use our imagination, we get back to that inner child of the dream. What can we dream into the future? This coagulation is displaced. It moves. It's no longer stagnant. It cannot hold on to our attention anymore because what we're focusing on is our playful, heart-centered, imaginative concepts, questions, conversations, visions. And through this process, it lines us up with the new dimensions of higher frequency. And we step out of this and we step forward into this. So what I was shown here is these are all waves, okay? These are all waves and particles, same thing, just different presentations of energy, right? So all of these waves and particles, oops, got little bugs, my plants. Again, they all represent certain patterns, colors, feelings, thoughts, right? So these are all thoughts. Now once we get coherent, once we get into our hearts, we're projecting that light, and these are waves, and these are particles with different colors, different thoughts, different patterns. So this is the new, and this is the old. And it's like we step forward into that new radiance from our heart, and that becomes what we're interacting with. When this person is here, doesn't mean that this other stuff isn't here. It just doesn't affect them as much. Then these waves basically create coherent waves, not chaos and muddledness. They become long, right? They become rideable. As a surfer, I'm not a surfer, I'm just saying as a surfer with a ride, and as Dan Winters has said in the past. And by the way, whenever I share any information with any other teachers, it doesn't mean I'm promoting or agreeing with everything they share. I always say take it with a grain of salt, take what resonates. But I do like a lot of the things that he shares. And he talks about shareable wave. You're having a shareable, and what this does is now this impacts a greater amount of people, but we're not focusing on those people. We're focusing on us. We're focusing from our heart center. And that displaces that other energy. It moves it. And I was shown in my vision like Moses in the Red Sea, when he parts the Red Sea and that ocean is still there. He's just able to go through it without it obviously drowning him. And then it closes back up, so on and so forth. So rather than being in the ocean and not knowing where we're going, basically matter, the thoughts become things. So that matter responds to us because we are innately connected through all things. So it moves and reflects back to us what we're creating, rather than us swimming around in all this stuff that we've created over and over and over again. We start to create new ways of interacting with matter and reality. And that's this portal, right? Or this tunnel, or the slinky is what I was shown. Creates a wormhole, if you want to call it that. So much more. Okay, let me just pause and I'll share some of what I wrote. So I'm going to read a little bit about how they worded this. And so here we are in another space, held within a vocabulary. So I wanted to talk about that because one of the things that the guides have been talking about is our throat center opening. A lot of people are going through throat opening, throat chakra, but that's also associated with the thymus gland, the higher heart, right? How close are the throat and the heart here? So really recognizing that we're being called to speak, right? With loving words. So let us go into this a little bit more depth. We are, so this is the space. We are in conjunction. We are in a conjunction node. And that's what they're saying where we are right now. I don't know how long this is. I know people ask, well, how long are we in this conjunction node? What is a conjunction node? So I'm just going to share briefly. Okay. So I'm clearly not an astrology buff. I do follow people on certain social media platforms that are astrology buffs. I have friends that are astrology buffs. But I looked up, what is a conjunction node? Well, in astrology, a conjunction node refers to the close alignment of a planet or other celestial body with either the north node or the south node in a birth chart or synastry relationship chart. This alignment amplifies the energies of both the planet and the node, indicating a significant area of focus and potential growth or challenge in the individual's life or relationship. So I'm getting goosebumps. So what I'm being shown to play with is that the Earth is in a conjunction node and an alignment with another planet. Okay. I'm going to say several planets that are essentially amplifying both of those energies. And I want to talk about the planet and the node, but we'll come back to that because this isn't necessarily just about astrology, but it talks about amplifying the energies of the planet and the node, indicating a significant area of focus and potential growth or challenge in the individual's life or relationship. So oftentimes where challenges are created in our lives for growth, right? And so I'm not going to go into all this. You can Google it yourself and look up what these conjunctions are. I don't know what, because this gets really, I guess I could find out, but I'm sure it has something to do with the astrology of the now. But what I'm being shown is it's not just the astrology of right now, today, it's like the year. It's what we're going to be going through in this next cycle of time. Okay. Also, but I love to play with this because one of the things that my guides love to get me to do is to think outside of the box. It's not just one meaning. It's not just one definition. It's not just one reality. It's multidimensional dimensional awareness. And I always see things as bubbles within bubbles within bubbles that are all connected through the quantum network. And so everything is connected, including words. So if I were to play with, so my guides are saying we are currently in this space, right? So it's not just time, but in this space, we are conjunction or at a conjunction node. This conjunction node is referencing a physical location. Okay, so there's the astrology portion of it, or a binder that allows us to connect in to, and I was hearing the word placebo. So I'm going to come back to that later. I'm not going to go through the whole thing. But if you look up conjunction node in quantum physics, which of course I always like to go to, so fun. In quantum mechanics, a node is a region. It's not a standard in quantum physics, but it's a region in an atom or molecule where the probability of finding a particle such as an electron is 0, okay? It's a point where the wave function describing the particle's behavior equals 0. So there's a theme here. Nodes are similar to the points on a vibrating guitar string that remains motionless while the rest of the string vibrates. Ooh, goosebumps. So now I'm being called to go into that a little bit. Paying attention to these feelings and sensations that we get in our body is really important, especially if you're an energy healer or an intuitive or a human, really. So it goes right into waves, wave patterns, amplitude. Okay, this makes sense because what I was being shown was these are waves, right? So now this is talking about a conjunction node. So it's almost like 0 point. And I'm going to get into that in a little bit more depth. But from one perspective, again, if we are coherent and we're creating from this playful frequency, we are creating 0 point. And what I was shown is it's almost like we're then able to create the placebo effect. The placebo effect, if you don't know, and this is then what's been created before. So a lot of us are living examples of the placebo effect. And let's just talk about that for a minute. So as you guys know, the placebo effect oftentimes is in the medical world. Well, they'll give somebody a placebo and then they'll give somebody the real drug or vitamin. And the person who received the placebo may have the same effects. They didn't receive anything at all, but because they believed that they did, they had a positive outcome just as much sometimes as the person who received the real deal. So it's a phenomenon where a person experiences an improvement in their condition after receiving a fake treatment. Okay, it says it's not fully understood, but what they say is it revolves around expectation, classical conditioning, psychological factors, physiological changes. So why does this happen? But this is essentially what the guides are trying to share. We're creating a placebo effect no matter what. So we're either going to create this effect because we believe that it's because of what we believe in. And what is that told? We're getting these false injections here. I don't mean like injections literally. I mean like of information of like, okay, you're getting this and this is what's going on. And we're eating it. We're digesting it. It's sitting around us. It's floating around us. And we're believing that that's how it is. So it creates this, and it creates static. It creates debris that we then are sluggishly moving through because we aren't realizing that there's light at the end of the tunnel. So if we get into this coherent state, we create the placebo effect that essentially, who cares if it's real or not? It becomes real to us. It physically manifests into matter as healing, as expansion, and so on and so forth. So I'm going to share what the guide said, and I'm going to see if I can explain this a little bit more. So that was the simple variation. I'm going to keep going with the simple variation, and I'm going to go into my complex word play. Basically, what the guides were showing me is a playground. Make the world your playground. Sit on a swing set, swing back and forth, look at the trees, get your feet in the sand, get your feet in the water, ground, connect with material. Because oftentimes what we're connecting with through the computer, through artificial intelligence, through these things, they're not real. They are because they're tubes and wires and connected. So they're real to a certain extent, but they're not material. So I want to kind of play with that a little bit. I'm not speaking just of like objects like chairs and clothes and cars. The guides aren't saying become material. What do we want to create and bring forward in the material realm? Because that's where we exist. We don't exist inside of a computer. Granted, there are some that will wish to project their consciousness there, and that's their choice. And we have that on one of the timelines. But even when you're watching a television show, and even though the people that are presenting that show to you are real, the show isn't real. The television is material, but it's all interpreted. So what the guides are sharing is it's really important to pay attention to how we're interpreting our environment. The more open we can be, and the more we can be in the material realm, holding the higher coherence and the higher frequency, the more we bring into that realm magic. That becomes real to us. This is one of the reasons I tell a lot of my clients to journal, because you're taking something that's out here, all this stuff, and you're putting it onto a piece of paper. So when it's floating around, yes, these thoughts are energy, but it's not until you actually bring them into matter that they become something different. So oftentimes it's helpful to pull all those thoughts and organize them so that they start to fade, they start to dissolve. They go from one thing, a thought out here floating around, coagulating, hanging over our shoulder. We pull it out, we put it in paper, and it becomes different. And it's no longer here. It's gone. It's here now. Doesn't mean we don't stop thinking about it, but in some cases, it shifts the pattern into something different that is then usable energy. And that was the other topic that came through. Rather than having this useless stuff that we've created, that's been a distraction, that's been a mirage, we are now going to go forward creating what is going to be useful for us in the future, and not take all of this coagulated energy that has been pulling our attention and feeding that, and instead we begin to feed this. Okay, where was I going? Okay, so this is what the guide said. We are aligning with a material realm. We were out of a phase. So I was hearing Madonna, right? The song, living in a material world. But that's a play of words too. Connected to a void. So what they're sharing is we're connected to this void, right? The void is a creationary space or aspect of remembrance. The void is in accordance, in accordance with a frequency pattern that emits or shuffles or allows for a shuffling to occur. I'm going to come back to this. This is what one might refer to as a buffer zone. The buffer zone allows for creative patterns to manifest, fluctuate, and remanifest in such a way that it is not disarming, meaning it allows for the creative flow to be accessed and to be experienced or expressed, more expressed than experienced in some cases, so that reality patterns are not disturbed, meaning they may seem as if there are many disturbances, but they are only on the surface. So there's something about, I'm still dissecting all this, and it could take me years to do that. But what I was being shown is we kind of have this ability to be in this buffer zone where we're creating things, but it's all surface, like we see it on the surface of water, and it looks really messy and it looks crazy and chaotic. But underneath all of that is just the water. Now, I'm going to keep going on this. It doesn't mean that if we're creating destruction, it's not going to have an impact maybe deeper than just the surface. This is more of a reference. The guides are trying to show me that for whatever reason, we've been in this buffer zone, probably because we were misbehaving at some point and still are, right? Collectively and creatively. A lot of people are creating things that are not necessarily positive for our future. So stillness is at the core of this disturbance. And so these conjunctions or points in matter are creating a pattern. The pattern is potentially played out in this moment as a cohesive structure of non-cohesiveness, meaning chaos, meaning everyone seems to be moving, pointing, and looking in different directions. While this is true to a certain extent, there is an inner or innate underlying truth that is actually the glue holding all of this together. And again, I was hearing the placebo effect. So we're the ones, because we believe it, are holding this together as our reality. But if the message in this particular message was play, really, really play and have fun with this, because you're in a different space now than you were before. And we're conjunct with, we got help. We got a line up here that we didn't have before. They called this void a construct, one might say a construction zone. It is a play zone. It allows the energies to duplicate, to multiply, and to create in a sector of space that disables the actuality of a negativity. It's zero. It brings things back to zero. Not exact, but this is just what I'm being shown because it's difficult to describe. So basically, we're in this play zone from what I'm being shown, or maybe we were in a play zone where what we're creating wasn't going to have such a big impact on the universe because we were a bunch of kids that got thrown together. And it's like, all right, go play, go create what you want. And, you know, it's just like when your parents go away for the weekend and you're like, I'm going to throw a party. And it's kind of, that's been what's going on, right? The planet. Okay, so this holding allows for co-creative activity to surface without disturbing the presence or peace of that which is holding the pieces together. So, okay. And I was seeing like a kid playing in a sandbox on a playground. And it's like the kid's in the sandbox in the playground building whatever he wants. And it's not disturbing the kids on the swings or the kids on the slides. And they were saying, yeah, that's kind of what we're talking about. Like you guys have been in this sandbox. And it's similar to that. This creative zone was created by those seeking to hold or to allow certain activities to play out. So while it may seem as if the world is about to erupt into some massive, I was seeing like solar activity or whatever, it is merely a creationary point. It is a surface or subsurface, slightly subsurface level of creation. It does not have the same impact that it once had. So what they're referencing right now is all of the stuff that's going on. It's not going to impact, according to what I'm being shown, the same way that we think it is. I wouldn't say if, it's just not. Because enough of us are doing this instead, or if enough of us, it's not a numbers thing on amount of people necessarily, it's a vibrational thing. I can go into a room when I'm in my heart and impact more people than somebody else coming into the room who is angry. Granted, if they're expressing that anger and then it's impacting a lot of people, that's slightly different. But how we respond to that also shifts the frequency and the vibration. I can go into so many different layers. So this energy that we are experiencing has a playfulness attached with it because it isn't as serious as we think it is. Yet with a placebo effect, the belief will hold a doctrine, or will hold a pattern that creates an idea that takes form. And so we are continuously inviting those who are informed, and who understand how reality works to a certain extent, to be playful at this time, to allow yourself to configure and reconfigure and energetically stretch your mind. Create from the crevasse, if you will, of the heart. Create the ability to see beyond the crevasse that many of us feel we are falling into. For this is false. It is fake. It is not real. Yet it is believed to be real. Therefore, it creates a false front, meaning it creates a platform in which to interact from. Now, I'm going to draw this out on another video, but essentially, this false stuff, even though it has patterns in the thought forms, creates this platform. And this platform is what we are pretending to operate from. And those others who like this platform of a lower frequency want us to focus all of this on here to continue to go forward in that platform. But we're here and we're going forward on this platform. But if you notice, we're dispersing the energy of the old platform. It's being allowed, though, to play out. It's being allowed to be co-created from, because that's what we agreed to from what the guides are sharing with me. I want to talk a little bit about what they're saying about displaces old. So in physics, displacement refers to the change in position of an object from its initial position to its final position, taking into account both the magnitude, distance, and the direction. It's a vector quantity, meaning it has both magnitude and direction. I've talked about this in other videos. Displacement is often contrasted with distance, which is the total length of the path traveled regardless of the direction. Displacement is not just how far something moves, but also in what direction. If an object moves in a circle and returns to its starting point, its displacement is 0, even though the distance it traveled is the circumference of the circle. Ooh, I feel like that's so relevant right now. I'll have to come back to that. And if you guys know, you guys might have more of a handle on this than I do because I just recorded this and I'm still figuring it all out. It says that it can be positive or negative. Okay. Boy, there's lots of stuff on displacement. So we might come back to this a bit. I'm also being called to look at displacement in geometry and mechanics. So in geometry and mechanics, this is even more relevant. A displacement is a vector whose length is the shortest distance from the initial to the final position of point P. Okay, I think I'm kind of seeing this. So we've got this circle and a roundabout. We've been going around this circle, and now we're back to here. And we're starting fresh. Like this is the 0 point. We're in a buffer zone. We're in this place where we can play. And we're co-creating because of this alignment that we've got with the planets, because of what's happening internally and what we're expressing externally into material form. We're creating this new reality faster with less distance. We're going to go this long wave, maybe in a circle, right? But we're creating it now. And that displaces, and there's more about this. I'm being shown a boat, so I'm being called to. So it quantifies both the distance and the direction of the net or total motion along a straight line from the initial position to the final position of the point of trajectory. I want to play with this. Ooh, there's this has to do with time also. So I'm hearing what's happening is because of the displacement of this energy, we're actually doing it faster. So they're trying to explain to me like this person is creating faster than this person is, because they're more coherent, because they're more available is what I'm hearing. There's more energy available to them, I'm hearing, to use. And so from that conduction, oh, I'm seeing a conduction, like a wave conductor. We're conducting it. Also, I'm seeing a maestro conducting the orchestra. We're becoming those conductors. This other stuff is still there, right? But we're not there. It's moving around us. Almost done. So let's get back to the false reality. It is not real, yet it is believed to be real. Therefore, it creates a false front. It creates a platform in which to interact from. So the mind creates the matter, the systems, so on and so forth. Yet this reality is held or encapsulated within a void. This particular space is a project, if you will. And through this space, it is projected on how this will impact the greater whole. It's like an experiment. And I know I've heard that before. Like other teachers have been like, this is an experiment, the human experiment. And they're explaining to me, yeah, this is how it's working from their perspective. We are being observed. We are being communicated with. We are under observation. So this is the play on words as well. And so it is important to reflect back to the observers at this point what it is you wish to co-create, what it is that you truly wish to bring into matter. Okay. So the framework that you are accessing allows you to move in such a way. So while those who are in the business and in the habit of deflecting and projecting and creating the placebo effect are busy at play. So I really am being called, okay, I'll keep going. Distracting the common man, if you will, or woman from focusing on their own play. We invite you, those who are listening or reading into this particular message, to begin to write your own play. Really focus and streamline. I'm hearing with deep efficiency. Play on words. I'll have to get back into efficiency. What is it you would like to bring to the table? Because it is deeply equine. I was seeing this is fertile. So we're in fertile ground right now. I was seeing all these nutrients that are like soup or plasma or water that are powered by our empowerment, empowered by our streams of consciousness. All right, so what I was showing is that this plasma that's all around us, okay, is hold on. Oh, I was being shown the labyrinth again. You guys, I make a lot of references to the labyrinth. Thank you, Joshua, for acknowledging my references to the labyrinth. You get me. So there's a scene in the labyrinth where she has to make a wish. So basically, she's at home in her bedroom and she's upset at her parents. You know, she's this teenager. She had to babysit, blah, blah, blah. And so the Muppets that are in the movie, that are in this other land of the labyrinth, right? She's here and the Muppets are, I don't know, here, probably down here more, right? They're in this land of imagination. And she starts to wake up the puppets, basically. She starts to wake up this other dimension. And she doesn't say the right words. They're waiting for her to say, I wish, da, 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 da. And then she says, I wish. And they're like, she said it, yay. She's going to come play with us. So she projects her consciousness because she makes that wish and now she's in their world. But it's actually another layer of her own consciousness. Anyways, so the idea is we're creating these realities. We think we're in this labyrinth, and all we have to do is take our power back by creating this, right? Being in our hearts, being playful, and that allows all of this other stuff to disperse, to move, did I say disperse? Be displaced, okay? It's going to go someplace else. It makes room for us. We create more space in this space that is in conjunction and lining up with other planetary alignments that we haven't been in conjunction with before while this was going on in the same way. So pretend that this plasma is around us. So here's this plasma, right? This field of energy, all these little sparkles. Picture sparkles all around like water, little molecules. And if you guys have ever looked in the sunlight and really seen it, you can see the little globules of plasma that are around us all the time. So it's basically saying, come play with me. We're in this void, we're in this space full of this aliveness. And instead, we've been hanging on to these plasma that's kind of like mucky, right? It's old, stale thought patterns. But this new alive plasma is like, what are we going to play with next? It's excitable, is what I'm hearing. They're like liquid light crystals. And they take shape and form based on the shape of our thoughts. I'm going to use another movie reference because it's great to have these movie references because that's what the movies are. Actually, great teachers for us to a certain extent. If you've ever seen the movie The Abyss, have you guys seen that movie? Such a good movie. This plasma or this water takes form and then mirrors her face back to her. So it's kind of the same thing. It's like all this energy is around us moving according to what we're projecting into it. So it changes shape, and then it displaces the other stuff so it can be integrated, dissolved, or utilized for something else. So we're moving matter and reality around us. It morphs. So once we project our thoughts, that becomes stronger through feeling, aka the placebo effect. It shapes the entire or morphs the entire reality around us. And then we are able to move matter. We are already moving matter, but we are physically able to displace that which has been previously projected or thought of. And it just moves. And we still see it, it's still there, but we walk right past it. It doesn't affect us, kind of like the Matrix, right? I already used the example of the Red Sea. So the water is still touching, but you're not touched by it. The energetic spectrum that you must carry in order to operate within this particular codex or state or settee, to come back to that, is complex, yet quite simple. The simplest way to format with this reality is to continue to format your own template. Breathwork, meditation, movement, pretend. Now let us speak on pretend for a moment. Remember when you were a child and used to pretend whatever it was that you pretended you would play with, and it would become that which you were pretending, a builder, a pilot, a creator, whatever it might be. You believed it so wholeheartedly, fully, that it moved around you, through your idea. Now, it's not to say that it would form in front of you, but you believed that it did. You could be, I'm hearing everywhere, all at once. It was like you were in your own world. So have you ever been in your own world where you have no idea what else is going on around you because you're so involved in your project? That's a perfect example. If you come back to those moments and redirect your energy and senses to that playfulness, the wholesome feelings of unity you would create with fervor and excitement. We are inviting you to get into the game, roll your own dice, make your own rules from your heart, positive way. State out loud what you would like to rule, what patterns you would like to see show up for you. Now, many are unable to see beyond the plasma or soup that is surrounding them because they have been focusing extraneously on their extraneous circumstances. And with all of this attention, it is a cast net, if you will, into the eyes of the beholder, the viewer, the warning. That which you view is then reflected back. So, eye of the beholder, this is what they're seeing. We would invite you to see past the distortions that are being projected around you. So you are here to bring this forward, bring this to the forefront. And as you play and use your imagination, your imaginary friends will come out and play too. For those who are not in their hearts, it is difficult to imagine anything but the dark. So the more you light up, play, the easier it is to see I'm seeing throughout the day. I also was being shown like a video game where, like, let's say this is how you're going to see different doorways that other people can't see. You're going to see the imaginary friends that other people can't see. So that's a whole other video. There was a movie where the guy puts on his glasses. I can't remember the name of that movie with anyways, he puts on glasses and all of a sudden he takes his glasses off and he puts it back on and he can see all this other stuff going on that we can't see. Or it's just like having an OBE. You see things that are there that you don't see when you're not in that state of awareness. I'm being shown, you might be surprised, but don't be afraid of it. And I'm being shown like some of the beings are gonna be like, wait, is she looking at me? She can see me. It's like what is it? The abominable snowman? No, oh, I just dropped my microphone. My high-tech pilot mic. What's the guy that Bigfoot, right? Is it Bigfoot? All of a sudden you're gonna see Bigfoot. And he's gonna be like, how are they seeing me? Because we've gone into that space, which is what our imagination can take us into. But it's important to stay grounded and it's important to stay in our bodies because we're doing this in our bodies. We're not leaving our bodies. We're not leaving the planet. So it's part of it is us interacting with matter. That's why we're in a physical form, to interact with matter, because we are matter, because it matters. This, I'm going to go a little like super, I mean, a little woo-woo. I was also shown a very side example of some of us are going to see beings, or let's just say, I don't want to call them soul shards, pieces of energy, expressions of energy, entities, maybe. Some of us might start to see entities. And sometimes just like we're called to see them. And it's like when you see it and it sees you, it's almost like being seen can sometimes allow people to integrate whatever they need to integrate. So for those of us who are clairvoyant or who can see beings maybe that have passed over or feel like they're stuck, and that's a whole other video, some of us are going to help them get unstuck. And again, another video. So I was being shown there's some beings who forgot they were light and they're lost in some realm, or part of them was lost in some realm. And I'm being shown that we can play and bring them forward. It's not maybe what your cup of tea is. It doesn't have to be. But some people are going to want to help some of these beings integrate, clear, move on. In other words, remember is a more appropriate word. This is not what everyone will choose to do, but some of you are here to do just that. So that's up to you, choice. So the task at hand is to start the game. And for those who are unable to find their visions or see what they want, redirect your energy to your friendships, to your mother nature, to your body. Get out the coloring books, get creative, be playful, take a class that you haven't taken before. All the stuff that we know we should do, but we get into this space where we get distracted. So it'll be easier to feel this new space if we do that than choked by the old energy of stagnation. So it's movement again. The more we do this, the more we displace and move out that energy and bring it back to 0 point from one perspective. I was also called to recognize that even though these thoughts are energy, they're different energy than this living light plasma. So it's almost like we're utilizing, we haven't been, there's more of this to utilize now. And there's a lot more of it. So rather than recycling all this yucky, we now move into the new. And that helps to clear out and make more space for the new. I was being shown the bullets. So the bullets in the matrix, right, where they all fall, they're there, but we're not going to be impacted by them from one perspective. They were saying, we are not saying that in the real world you will stop a bullet in its tracks. What we are using is an example of bullets being thoughts being patterns and belief systems. So I was shown Neo stopping the bullets and then they all fall. So it's not like we're going to be able to just stand out and say, okay, I'm going to stop this bullet. It's not necessarily how it's going to work, but those bullets are the systems, the thought patterns, and the beliefs. So while other people are creating a placebo effect around them, they are responding to, you are creating an environment that is responding to you. So they are responding to this, and we are creating this that responds to us. They're actually doing that too, but it's a whole other. Therefore, you are that which is being presented in a new form. This new form has a higher frequency, a vibration that of consciousness, a conscious direction and understanding, an energetic pattern that is lighter and more compact at the same time. So it's being shown like a zip file, right? We got more information. It seems like it's held together more, and we can move with it easier. And it's kind of being shown like a black hole, like how all that energy is compacted into that. And you are a walking portal. So your portal is balanced, and energetic matter will move when you walk through it in the way in which you are presenting your portal. We are describing it in this way so that you can see it, so that you can understand it from your own knowingness and from your own ability to describe matter. So this is how I'm describing it. Somebody else will describe it different. For certain people will hear certain things and others will not understand. And so your simplistic descriptions will be helpful for some. Maybe not this simplistic description, but what I was sharing in the beginning, hopefully. Others will find this elementary and simple, dear Watson, yet they will be reminded because of their, and now I'm hearing a little play on words, analytical way of thinking. Oh, analysm. They combine two words, analytical way of thinking, that it all comes back into play and playfulness. Yeah, and that was it. So I hope that was helpful for someone. There's more I could go into, but essentially I'm going to recap and end on this note. Right now, it is so important for us to play and for us to be social. Not when we're called, when we feel like it. If we don't feel like it, it might mean that we just need to go within and create our own playground. And I'm hearing, but eventually you're going to want to come out and play with the other kids on the playground, because when two or more gather, this is what we're creating, and it's outplaying the other game. Also, I would probably at some point like to go in with the guides and talk about this void, but I get the sense that because of what we're aligning with, we're kind of encapsulated within like this protective zone, which is, from my perspective, really cool, because it allows us to allow others to create without us having to control their creations. And when we get back to that heart-centered awareness, we out-create the distortions. And so we don't have to worry about what they're doing, if that makes sense. All right, I'm going to end on that note. In love and light, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in. Namaste.